welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. My name's Paula. Today's video is on herbal medicine, okay, and magical healing. So first off, let me give you a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed physician. So if you, I implore you that if you have a health concern, please consult with a licensed medical practitioner, especially, if you've got a mental illness concern, anything like that, please go see a doctor. And I have to say this, number one, for legal reasons and to cover myself, but you also need to make sure that if you're on any prescription medications, that any herbal medicine that you want to take or herbal supplement that you want to take, that it does not adversely interact with medications that you're already on. For instance, St. John's wort is contraindicated with a lot of different medicines. It's a very common over-the-counter herbal supplement for people that are mildly depressed and kind of blue and things like that. It's a mood elevator. But unfortunately, it is contraindicated with a lot of medicines. So please be sure to, do your research and don't take this. This is like medicine. You wouldn't just go and take, a pill you didn't know what it was and how it would affect you without doing research on it. At least I don't. So there's my little bit of a disclaimer. So, but let's put it into some perspective that, herbal remedies and treatments have been used since, recorded history, okay? Back as early as, the Egyptians, Sumerians, it's been documented that they used various herbal preparations to treat illness. One of the oldest ones is willow. It was used documented as far back as 3000 BC. And it was used for an anti-inflammatory or pain reliever for aches and pains. In Greece, Hippocrates used willow leaf tea in 400 BC to help women ease the pain of childbirth. And eventually that willow compound was synthesized and broken down into what we now call aspirin. And in 1897, Bayer aspirin was invented, okay? So there we have it. And by 1950, aspirin entered the Guinness World Records for being the most frequently sold painkiller. So it evolved from, a leaf, a bark, a root into modern medicine, pain reliever for aspirin. There are also countless very early medications, like foxglove, purple foxglove. This was used to produce an extract to treat cardiac arrhythmias as far back as the 1700s. That was the first documented use of it, and it was attributed to a Scottish doctor named William Withering, but one of his patients came to him with a very bad arrhythmia. He deemed it initially to be untreatable. The patient then went to go see a healer, a gypsy healer, and was given this remedy that basically cured the heart arrhythmia. And then Dr. Withering discovered that it was a tincture or decoction that was made out of purple foxglove. That's what the herbal remedy was. And then this extract that he used to treat arrhythmias later became digoxin and digitoxin, that we know as now. Digitalis is in the name of foxglove. And it was approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration as digoxin in 1954. So you need to be very, very careful doing your research, because these plants have evolved to very powerful drugs that are used to treat a lot of different symptoms today. Aspirin is even used low dosages to help prevent cardiac disease, and is very effective in helping people from having a recurring cardiac event. So, as with every herb, gemstone, crystal, whatever, when you're preparing a medicine, an herbal medication that you're using, whether it's a tincture, a salve, whatever, you have to set the intent for that herb or for that essential oil that you're using, because each, just like magical properties, they have a lot of different medicinal properties. Now, I'm going to go through a few terms that I use. And this is not an all-encompassing, glossary of terms for medicines and medications. These are just ones that, I use pretty frequently. The first one is allergy, and that's a hypersensitivity to something in the environment. It can come as like an eczema or contact dermatitis. It can manifest as a rash, hay fever, asthma, food allergies. Really extreme allergic reactions can result in anaphylaxis, which involves, a swelling of the throat and shutting of your respiratory passages so that you go into respiratory failure, and anaphylaxis can be fatal. Analgesic means that it relieves or diminishes pain. An anti-inflammatory means that it reduces inflammation in the body. An antidiarrheic means that it controls diarrhea. An antispasmodic means that it relieves or prevents involuntary muscle spasms or tension, and especially in smooth muscles, the muscle of the gut wall, bronchial tubes, bile, and urinary ducts or blood vessels. An antitussive relieves coughing. An astringent is a medicine that reduces the flow of secretions or discharge. Arthritis is inflammation of a joint. This is very common. Most people walk around with arthritis and they don't even know it. I was like, I want to say like 19 when they first noticed arthritic changes to my spine. A carminative reduces flatulence and colic. A decoction is a preparation made by boiling herbs in water, okay? A diuretic promotes the flow of urine to reduce edema or swelling in the body. A decongestant relieves congestion. An elixir is a liquid preparation consisting of the extract of a potent or unpleasant tasting medicinal plant, like, just right off the bat, one that comes to mind for me is valerian. It smells vile and it tastes vile, but it's a very good, powerful herb. But an elixir is made palatable by adding aromatic substances and honey or sugar. So an aromatic could be something like a cinnamon, a clove, something like that, and then adding honey to it. An expectorant is something that clears out the phlegm of the chest, in the chest, by coughing. An essential oil is the result of the distillation of essence producing plants. Um, Indigestion is a non-specific term for a variety of symptoms resulting from failure of the proper breakdown and absorption of food in your body, in your gut. A tea is a mixture of herbs that is then steeped in boiling water and then you drink it. Okay? A tincture is a preparation that you use alcohol or glycerin and you infuse herbs into that. The alcohol is very common, but you can substitute glycerin, vegetable glycerin, for people who are diabetic that can't have the alcohol, or for people who have substance abuse issues. A tonic is a medicine to improve the general health of the person, and topical means that it's applied local or a local external remedy. Okay, in other words, it's on the skin. Okay, you don't ingest it. So as you guys know, I always have my power whatever. In the handouts down in the description, there is a more comprehensive glossary of terms, as well as more herbal properties and actual recipes for various types of medicinal preparations that I have come to kind of perfect over the years. But I want to go over some of my power healing or medicinal healing herbs. Okay, and the first one is arnica. And arnica is a great anti-inflammatory. It's a germicide. It helps with muscular soreness and to relieve pain. This is great to make an arnica salve. You know, if you've done a particularly hard workout or you've tweaked your back, you know, doing things and you've discovered muscles that you didn't realize that you had, an arnica salve rubbed over locally that area is really good at helping relieve the inflammation in the joint and to relieve the pain. Another is marigold or calendula. It is an anti-inflammatory. It's also an astringent. It helps heal wounds. It has antiseptic properties, and it's also detoxifying. Another one that I love is chamomile, and it's an anti-inflammatory. It's an antispasmodic, a relaxant, carminative. It's bitter and it's a nervine. And chamomile tea is great to help you release the tension of the day, kind of wind down, and drink a cup of chamomile tea before bed, and especially if you're having trouble sleeping. Another is chickweed. Most of us have chickweed growing in our daggone yards, and we get irritated with it, but it's actually a very powerful healing herb. It's great. It's soothing and cooling medicinally, but you can also add chickweed to, it's an edible green. You can throw some chickweed that you've gotten and then cleaned well, and include it in a salad. You can use it as a poultice or a salve for healing surface wounds, sores, or ulcers, cuts, and it's even good for drawing boils. It softens the skin and cools and calms itching, dryness, psoriasis, and irritation. In the description box, I have a salve that I made up that is chickweed and yarrow and lavender. And it is absolutely the best thing for eczema and psoriasis. A friend of mine's husband was taking methotrexate, which is it's actually a chemotherapy drug, and they use it to treat some types of eczema and plaque psoriasis. And he would have to go in for these methotrexate treatments, And you know, they can make you very, very ill and have a really adverse effect on your liver. And I gave my friend some of my chickweed yarrow salve. Her husband put it on his psoriasis instead of going to go for a chemotherapy treatment to see if it helped. And it had him cleared completely within 8 weeks. And where normally he would have to go in for a methotrexate treatment 6 or 7 times a year, he went an entire year before he had to go for another treatment. And that was because he ran out of salve, and he didn't want to ask me to make more for him, and he didn't tell my friend that he had run out. So, you know, when I found out he went in for a treatment, I was like, Laura, what's up? She's like, he ran out of your salve. And I'm like, oh my God, here, you know, and I made up some for her and took it in the next week. But you can really do some great stuff with chickweed. It's also great, that salve is also great for cracked heels in the wintertime, or when your cuticles crack and bleed in the winter from the elements. It's great for that as well. The next one is comfrey. It's great for digestive problems. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's great for wound healing, and it's an astringent. The next of my power herbs is eucalyptus. It's an antiseptic. It's an expectorant. It stimulates local blood flow, and it also has antifungal properties. Ginger. Ginger is a diaphoretic. It's also a carminative, a circulatory stimulant. It inhibits coughing. It's anti-inflammatory. It's antiseptic. Ginger is one of the best treatments for nausea and stomach upsets. I drink ginger tea all the time. I chew on candied ginger routinely to help with nausea and issues from having a gastric bypass many, many years ago. Witch hazel is another one. It's an astringent. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and it helps stop external bleeding. Lavender is a carminative. It relieves muscle spasms. It's an antidepressant. It's antiseptic and antibacterial, and it stimulates blood flow. That's why it's also good, a little bit of lavender in that chickweed yarrow lavender salve, increase the blood flow to that area of the skin to help healing go faster. The next one is peppermint. Now, this is a carminative. It helps relieve muscle spasms. It increases sweating. It stimulates the secretion of bile, but it also has antiseptic properties. Rosemary is a stimulant. It's an astringent. It's anti-inflammatory, and it's a carminative. Sage is an astringent. It has antiseptic properties. It's an aromatic. It's carminative. It reduces sweating, and it's also a tonic. The next is tea tree oil. It's an antiseptic, antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. However, a lot of people use tea tree to treat acne. It's good if you use it once in a while. If you use tea tree for a long period of time, it can actually cause contact dermatitis, especially if you're like taking a drop of tea tree oil and putting it direct, essential oil, and putting it directly on your skin. I honestly would not do that for very long. It's okay for like an overnight treatment of a zit or something like that, but I would not use tea tree oil as a long-term treatment for a skin problem. Another of my power herbs is valerian, and it's a sedative, it's a relaxant, it helps with relieve muscle spasms, it helps relieve anxieties, and it can lower blood pressure. This is one that you have to double check for interactions, especially if you're on an antihypertensive medication or blood pressure medicine, because it can make you kind of bottom out if you take a higher dose of valerian. I will tell you, valerian smells like ass and tastes even worse. It is awful. I'm not going to lie. And I usually have to mix it, like if a valerian tea, with quite a bit of honey or something to cut that very, very nasty, nasty taste that it has. It tastes like ass, and I'm not even going to tell you that it doesn't. So the last one is yarrow, and it's an antispasmodic, it's an astringent, it increases sweating, it can lower your blood pressure, reduce fevers, it's a mild diuretic, and it's a urinary antiseptic. So let's talk about types of medicinal herbal preparations that you can make. The first one is what we call a decoction, and it's taking root, bark, or twigs and making a tea out of it. And you simmer 1 to 4 ounces of the herbal roots, twigs, and bark in 10 ounces of distilled water for 20 to 60 minutes in a very low simmer. I'm not talking a rolling boil, I'm talking a very low simmer. And then you can use that tea and drink it, okay? That's a decoction. An herbal tea is when you combine various herbs in a tea bag or an infuser, and then add hot boiling water, cover, and steep for 3 to 10 minutes. The easiest thing is to use an infuser. I have 3 different types of infusers right here. This first one is your typical ball tea infuser. It's got a little hook and a chain that you hook onto the side of your mug. You open it up, you put the herbs inside, close it up, and then you put this down in your cup, add boiling water, and let it steep. Another one, I also have a really big one of these that's like, a big ball, and I use it for bath teas when I'm doing ritual baths. Just a little hint there. Another one is this one, and you just open it up like this and place the herb inside, okay? And then you see it's got this little mechanism right here. You close it up, you let it steep, and then when it's done, you push on the plunger, and you can see it squeezes the water out of the herbs that are inside. Let me open it up and show you maybe. See, right there. So I like this one a lot. And then the easiest one is this one right here. This is made by Ingenuity. I got this off of Amazon. You just place your herbs here, put in your hot water, your boiling water, let it sit, and then you sit this down on top of your cup, okay, after it's steeped. And then this pushes up and the tea dispenses out, but the strainer inside keeps all the leaves from going down into your mug. I love this thing. I love it. That's my favorite tea infuser when I'm making teas. Another thing that you make are what are called herbal oils. Now, you remember that I talked about like carrier oils in the magical herbs and oils, essential oils. So what you do is to take 2 cups of extra virgin olive oil or apricot kernel oil, sweet almond oil, something like that, and add 1.5 cups of dried herb to that olive oil, okay? Now, the slow way to do it is to coarsely grind your herb in either a blender or a coffee grinder. I have a coffee grinder that is dedicated to just herbal preparations. I use it for nothing else but that, okay? Then you take the ground herb, it's coarsely ground, and you add it to the oil that's been placed in an airtight jar, okay? You shake the jar for 1 minute every day for 2 weeks, okay? You want to keep your jar you want it in a warm place, but out of direct sunlight. So if you have a windowsill that doesn't get direct sunlight in it, indirect is okay. You just don't want direct sun beating down on it, okay? If not, just put it somewhere in the kitchen where, you know, it's up out of reach, still in a warm place, but not in direct sunlight. Then after the 2 weeks, you strain out the herbs out of the oil. You can either use like a linen cloth or cheesecloth that's been like folded over a few times, and then get all of the herbs out of it, and then take that oil, put it in a jar, label it, keep your jar out of sunlight in a cool, dry place. The key is keeping your prepared herbal oils out of sunlight, okay? Now, a quick method is to coarsely grind the herb and add the herb to the oil. Now, you heat the oil. I use a small crock pot that's like yay big, and it's got a warm and a high setting on it, okay? And it has a removable ceramic insert. It's just a smaller crock pot. It's perfect. What I would use, I have 2 of them. One's for my herbs and stuff, and the other one is for keeping dips, like hot dips, warm. And you can do that and let that oil sit in that crock pot and heat for 12 hours on the low setting, okay? You have to stir the herbs every 1 to 2 hours. I do it every hour. You don't want to use a metal pot for this. That's why I recommend, you know, like a ceramic insert crock pot instead of using like an enameled coated pan, or like using some kind of a ceramic crock of some kind that can be placed over low heat, or used inside a pot that's got water in it as a double boiler to heat. You don't want to ever scorch your oils. This all has to be done very low heat. A tincture is 1 part herb to 5 parts 100 proof vodka, or you can substitute glycerin. You place the herbs in a blender and you add the solvent. In other words, you add the alcohol, the vodka, or the glycerin. You blend it at a high speed until it's smooth. Place that mixture in an airtight glass jar in a warm area out of direct sunlight. Shake it daily for a minute for at least 2 weeks. Then when you go to actually use the tincture, you strain it through that linen cloth or through the several layers of cheesecloth to get all of the you know, chunks of herbs out of it. Discard the used herb. Then you store this tincture in an amber or cobalt blue dropper bottle. You want to make sure you label and date it, because they don't last forever, okay? Same thing with your herbal oils. You want to date them when you prepared them, because they can go off and go rancid on you, okay? Let's do some generalized recipes. And I'm going to do a couple of teas for you. And when I do this, a lot of them that I do a lot, I make in a bigger container, and I keep it in the tea that I mix up in a bigger airtight tea container. Okay, take 8 ounces of peppermint leaves, 8 ounces of lemon balm leaves, and 8 ounces of fennel seed. That seems like a lot. This will last a very long time, okay, in an airtight container. Then what you want to do is take a teaspoon of that mixture in a tea infuser or your muslin bag, whatever, per 1 cup of boiling water. Steep for 10 minutes, and this is great for upset stomach. A general calming tea is 1 ounce of lemon balm, 1 ounce of chamomile flowers, and 1/2 an ounce of St. John's wort. This is one that you have to check for interactions with prescription medication. If you can't take St. John's wort, leave it out, okay? Then what you do is take 2 tablespoons of this mixture in a tea infuser or a muslin bag per 1 cup of water. Steep it for 10 minutes and then drink it. Paula's Nighty Night Tea is a 1/2 teaspoon of chamomile flowers, a 1/2 teaspoon of lavender flowers, and God help us, 1/4 teaspoon of valerian root. You want to place all of this in an herbal tea infuser or a muslin bag. Steep it in 1 cup of boiling water for 10 minutes. Drink this about 30 minutes before bedtime, and you are going to need to add a flavoring like honey or stevia, something like that, to take away the bitterness of the valerian root. It smells like ass, it tastes even worse. That's all. I'm going to say that again. So, salves and other topical preparations. To make a salve, your 2 big key ingredients outside of the herbs are extra virgin olive oil and beeswax pastilles and vitamin E capsules or vitamin E oil. The vitamin E helps preserve and extend the life of your salve preparations, okay? So for my eczema and psoriasis and cracked skin salve, it's 2 ounces of dried chickweed, 2 ounces of dried yarrow, 4 ounces of extra virgin olive oil, or EVOO as Rachel Ray would say, 5 drops of lavender essential oil, 1/2 an ounce of grated beeswax or beeswax pastilles. And I will pop a picture of beeswax pastilles up right here. I prefer them. They are less messy than having to try and finely grate up beeswax. Then you also need either 2 vitamin E capsules or 1/4 teaspoon of vitamin E oil. It can just be the vitamin E oil that you buy at the store. And then you need like a 1 4-ounce jar. I usually use the 10 salve jars that you can get on Amazon. So you prepare an herbal oil like I talked about earlier, having it over low heat, letting that infuse, or putting it, in a jar for 2 weeks. Prepare that herbal oil. After it's been prepared and strained, you place the oil in a double boiler or a small crock pot, like I was talking about, on high heat, and you gently warm the oil to about 100 degrees. You add the beeswax slowly to the hot oil, stirring it in, making sure that it completely dissolves. What you want to do then is remove the beeswax and oil from the heat and let it cool down for about 5 minutes. Okay? What I do to make sure that I have enough beeswax in there to sustain a salve so that it's not too runny is I take a metal spoon and just dip it down in the oil, blow on it, cool it off, and then check the consistency. You may have to add a little more beeswax to get it to the consistency that you like while it's still in that warmer oil state, okay? Then after that, you want to add the lavender essential oil, okay, and the vitamin E oil, and that's used to preserve it, okay? If you're using a capsule, just snip off the end of it, squeeze the contents out, stir it up, and you're good to go. Pour this concoction into a jar and let it completely cool. You can use sterilized baby food jars. Everything that you use, make sure that it's nice and clean and has been sterilized, okay? I use the metal tin salve containers that you get on Amazon. Then you let it cool completely, and then you put the lid on after it's completely cool, okay? Label it, and then store it in a cool, dry, dark place. Especially if you're using a baby food jar that's clear, make sure it's in a dark place. One of the best healing remedies that I have come up with is a skin healing mist. And this is great for like chafed skin in the summertime. Where I live, it gets very humid. It's very easy to get chafed. It's very easy to get razor burn in the summer. And this is also all awesome if your partner or you have stinky feet. My better half, his uniform boots make his feet sweat so bad and they smell so bad that I make this up for him. He puts it in his locker. He sprays it on his feet before he puts his uniform boots on. And that keeps his feet from getting athlete's feet and from smelling so badly. And what you do is take a 4-ounce travel spray bottle. You add about 3.5 ounces of witch hazel that is unscented. Then you add 10 drops of lavender essential oil and 10 drops of tea tree oil. Just put everything in that travel-sized spray bottle, put the pump on, shake it up really well, and then spray it. It will stratify and separate. The oils will separate from the witch hazel, okay? But if you put that on, it will clear up razor burn in about a day, like overnight. If you have chafed skin, I know I get the boob sweat really bad in the summertime because I've got some pretty substantial boobage. And you can get really uncomfortable and chafed from your bra band, the band of your bra. So anything that involves like chafed skin, a razor burn, stinky feet, this is the bee's knees. One of the best things you can make for upset stomachs is candied ginger, and it's really easy to make. You take about 5 teaspoons of raw sugar, a cup of warm water, and a cup of ginger that has been peeled and sliced into like 1/4 inch thick slices. So what you do is you dissolve the sugar in the water and place that ginger into a small saucepan and add the sugar water to it. You simmer this, and I mean on a low heat, simmer the ginger and the sugar water until the ginger is tender. It takes about 45 minutes up to about an hour, okay? Strain out the water. As an additional step, you can sprinkle a little additional sugar on top of this sliced ginger, okay? Then you place the ginger in a single layer on a cookie sheet, put it in a 200-degree oven, that's Fahrenheit, for about 4 to 5 hours, okay, until it dries out. The ginger will still be slightly chewy, and then what you do is when you've got upset, especially, kids like candied ginger. okay, for tummy ache. It's a little spicy. It's got a little bit of bite with it, but it's really great to relieve a really bad stomach upset. I love it. Um, One of the easiest things to do is your own version for chest congestion is your own version of Vicks Vapo Rub. And you'll need 40 drops of eucalyptus essential oil, 10 drops of camphor essential oil, 2 drops of wintergreen essential oil, 1 drop of thyme essential oil. You're going to need 2 vitamin E capsules or about 5 drops of the vitamin E oil. You're going to need 1 ounce of extra virgin olive oil and about a half a teaspoon of beeswax pastilles. You do the same thing. You heat up that olive oil very gently and heat it until, add the beeswax until the beeswax is melted. Use a very, very low heat or a double boiler. I use the small crock pot on high. I don't even bother with a double boiler. I would not put this in a pan on direct heat. It's just too easy to scorch your oils that way. When the wax is melted, remove that oil from the heat and add your essential oils and the vitamin E. Stir it up to blend everything together. When it's cool, it's ready to use. You store it in an amber or metal airtight jar. Be sure to make sure that you label what it is and when you made it. Okay. So my friends, those are some of the ways that you can use your herbs and your essential oils for healing rather than just magical purposes. Okay. And it goes, the key is while you are preparing everything, you set that intent, you're putting that intent and that energy into it as you're making these preparations, okay? You focus on what it to do, what you want it to heal, and it does wonders for you when you've made something for the first time that works, that you love, and that you make it for other people and that they love it too. Okay, when you put that much love and care into making something, that's extremely powerful magic. Okay, so there we have it, my friends. Those are some basic ways of using your herbs and essential oils in a medicinal purpose instead of just a magical purpose. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and please subscribe before you leave, and be sure to click the bell and turn on all post notifications so you know when I upload a new video. And as I always say, my friends, merry we did meet, merry we will part, until we merry meet again. Be well and walk in light, everybody. Bye.